Welcome to those of you who are new to Modern Health Fireside Chats. Welcome back to any returning guests. We are thrilled to have you here today with us, wherever you out there in the world. I'm personally really excited about today's conversation because we have such a spectacular guest here with us today, Nicole Willingham, who leads benefits and wellness at Clif Bar. Just a little background, Nicole and I met about a month ago while our teams at Modern Health were in process of interviewing our clients and asking for feedback on how engagement was going and what more we could be doing to support their teams and what kinds of things we should be prioritizing on our product roadmap for next year. And we were just blown away by Nicole and the very incredible benefit strategy at Clif Bar and just the extensive approach to health and well-being overall. And, really, I don't think we've seen any company, certainly that has such an impressive, extensive offering. And so we just had this really instant connection, and Peter jumped in and said, we need to share this with a broader audience for inspiration, how other companies can be thinking about how mental and physical health fit together and what more they can be doing to support a healthy workforce. I will also note before we get started that Nicole has been helpful to me in my own mental health, in addition to supporting her team at Clif Bar. We were on a prep call yesterday and Nicole filled me in on a few expert hot tips, which I will share with the audience today. If anyone has the new beta Zoom downloaded, there are a few secret new ways I think everyone sort of knows about the touch up your appearance box that you can click on Zoom now, but there's some new beta features where you can have Zoom do your eyebrow filler or your new lip color. So today's lip color is courtesy of Zoom. Thank you. Thank you, Zoom. And for men, you can style your own mustache, which seems like a pretty fun hack to play with. So, so thank you, Nicole, for that expert tip. And let's get into it, shall we? So Nicole, thank you again for joining us. I guess before we get into some discussion about Clif Bar in particular, would love to have you give a little bit of an introduction on your background and how you got to Clif Bar today.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. So that introduction was amazing. Thank you very much. I don't know if I can stop that. That was so flattering. So I appreciate it. And I'm very excited and honored to be part of this fireside chat today. Thank you so much for extending the invitation just to talk about benefits, which is my favorite topic in the world. My name's Nicole Willingham. I have been at Clif Bar for about a year and a half now. Time is flying. And previously, before Clif Bar, I worked at an insurance consulting company called ADD. And I was at ADD for about 6 years. I'm going to call those my formative years because I learned so much while I spent my 6 years there. And before that, I worked at MetLife for 4 years. And that was the start of my career in insurance and in benefits. So roughly, I've got about 11 years of just big picture insurance benefits knowledge and expertise. And so when I decided to come to Clif Bar, it was a change. I had never worked on the HR side. I'd always been in consulting or on the carrier side. And so it was a great opportunity to come in-house and see what I can do with an already extensive benefit offering. Clif Bar was amazing and innovative before I got there. And so I'm standing on a great legacy to see where we can go in the next 10 years. So I'm very excited about that.
Incredible. And Clif Bar is just such an amazing brand. I will read off a few pieces of history from the brand that I found through the website and from some Wikipedia stats and things. But the founding story and the company's values are just really inspirational and aspirational. The original idea for the Clif Bar was born out of the idea that eating energy chews and other bars on long bike rides and hikes was not a great experience, either from a taste perspective or a nutritional value. And or a natural health ingredients perspective required to sustain that level of physical activity. The company has just seen enormous growth, brand recognition worldwide. There's this obviously broader cultural movement towards healthier food choices and more convenient food choices, both for sport and just for healthy lifestyles. And the brand has since branched out to Luna bars, which is more targeted at a female audience, Clif Bars for kids. And sustainability has been always a huge part of the focus for the company. So all the products used are organic ingredients, and the company has also invested really heavily in environmental sustainability as part of the production processes. We also know that Clif Bar has joined officially the Business for Innovative Climate and Energy Policy, also known as BICEP. I hope I'm saying the acronym correctly. This is back in 2009, so early starter on the environmental sustainability wave train. And that inspired other companies to follow suit, including Nike, eBay, the North Face. And the goal was to pass progressive climate and energy legislation. So just really lofty goals that Clif Bar has always been a part of. The company is also involved in several volunteering initiatives, community outreach programs. It's been named a best place to work several years running. And so I'd love to hear more about Clif Bar's corporate values. And obviously that's a huge part of how the company has been built, how you think about hiring, and clearly how you think about how to build an incredible place to work. And that includes everything from the benefits packages, but this all comes from a leadership level. So I'll give a quote from the website. It says, directly from the leadership team, we're working to run a different kind of company, the kind of place we'd want to work, that makes the kind of food we'd like to eat, that strives for a healthier, more sustainable world, the kind of world we'd like to pass on to our children. And those aren't just words, they're our mission statement. And so just incredibly inspiring words to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this means for you as a leader and in your role overseeing benefits.
Yeah, no, Clif Bar's legacy, what has been built is incredible. And I think to the root of what you said, it all comes down to the mission. So Clif Bar is a 5 aspiration company. When you go to our website, it is what we are the most proud of, and it's what shapes our culture. So the aspirations: sustaining our business, sustaining our brand, sustaining our people, sustaining our community, and sustaining our plan. The entire company is built around those 5 aspirations. And so as we as leaders make decisions, it is always coming back to our mission statement. Working on the people side, sustaining our people, one of the key things we are always thinking about is sustain our people with competitive pay and benefits, holistic offerings, and other innovative benefits. We want to create a company culture that inspires and supports our people in and outside of work. And when we are working with the leadership team, that is always top of mind and always first. So oftentimes people always ask, okay, well, what about the business? So we work with the finance team, benefits works with the finance team, but the benefits and people are 2 separate aspirations, and we look at them as separate so that we are always making sure that our people come first. When it comes to our business, when we talk about sustaining our business, the company wanted a profit margin large enough to allow us to reinvest in Clif Bar and provide a cushion in leisure time. So the benefits that we're offering are just a reinvestment into our people.
So, when you and I were first chatting, and you were, part of our customer advisory board, and one of the questions we asked you is, okay, so, besides Modern Health, what other types of benefits you offer? And you started listing them out, and the list became so long that we started taking notes and taking more notes and taking more notes, because they were quite extensive. And so I'd love for you to share with our audience here today what those, maybe not an exhaustive list, but But tell us about the incredible benefits at Clif Bar.
Okay, so I'm going to pick our top 5. It really is a long list, and that's because how Clif Bar approaches benefits looks a little bit different than the traditional norm. In a lot of companies, benefits looks like your traditional health and welfare, medical, dental, vision, sometimes leaves, depending on how you're structured as a company. At Clif Bar, benefits is anything that an employee is going to use as a benefit. So that includes the bars that we give away to our employees. That includes time off, leaves. But some of my favorite benefits that we have that are outside the traditional medical, dental, vision, we have on-site daycare for our Emeryville employees. We offer an employee stock option plan. So we are company employee owned. So the employees own about 20% of the company. So that goes back to reinvesting in our employees. We want to make sure that when employees leave and retire from Clif Bar, they have a cushion, they have a retirement plan outside of the traditional 401k. We offer a first-time homebuyer loan. So employees are able to take out up to $15,000 that they're paying back in their payroll deductions. And it's to help them buy a home for the first time. So whether you're buying a home or you're fixing up your first home, we wanted to make sure that our employees were able to make that type of investment go into their next phase of life as they start their families. We were supporting them in that. We offer sustainability products or sustainability benefits. So when we talk about the planet being one of our aspirations, that was a cross-functional benefit that we worked to put together with our sustainability team. So what is cool home, cool commute, cool car? Cool car is if you are buying a hybrid or electric vehicle, we are going to give you a little over $6,000 towards the purchase of that car. And the point of that benefit was not to pay for the entire car, but it was to help people think about their emissions, what they were purchasing. Think about maybe a hybrid car or an electric car could be good for your family, and how do we support you if that was a decision you were trying to make? At the time, electric vehicles were a little bit more expensive than your traditional gas emissions car. So we wanted to make sure we're supporting our employees that were, and also supporting our initiatives around the planet when we create that benefit.
Absolutely incredible. And I know the list goes on and on and on, and everything from fertility benefits to surrogacy benefits to, you know, back before 2020 happened, there were personal training stipends and workout classes, and I know all that has since gone virtual, but just really
it has. And I appreciate that you brought up our fertility benefits. So at Clif Bar, last year in 2019, we had a mission to really change the verbiage that we were using around fertility. So we call all of our benefits path to parenthood related to becoming a parent. And we wanted to create a more inclusive benefit. And that was actually one of my favorite initiatives that we launched last year when it came to anyone's journey to becoming a parent. So previously, our infertility benefits were, like most traditional companies, especially of our size, they were included in our medical. So if you were enrolled on our medical plan, you had access to $20,000 worth of infertility benefits. As we were starting to look at that benefit, is it enough? Is it really doing what we want? We began to realize it was very exclusive. It was exclusive if you were trying to have surrogacy, trying to go through surrogacy path. It was exclusive if you didn't want to be on Clif Bar's benefits. So if you didn't want to be on our medical benefits, you weren't able to access the $20,000 we were offering. And so we wanted to create a benefit that included everyone's journey and path, no matter how that looks, whether you're doing egg freezing, whether you're doing adoption. And we didn't want it bundled with our medical plan. So we pulled it out. We're working with Carrot, and then we increased the benefit. So we went from having $20,000 of benefit to $40,000 of benefit. And our adoption benefit was a little less. And this is a great example. We were so excited to launch Path to Parenthood, open enrollment last year. We had an employee come up to us who had adopted 3 of her kids. And she said, well, does that include adoption? And at the time it didn't. And it made us realize that she expressed to us, she said, what that feels like is that it is more societally acceptable to birth your children than to adopt your children. You know, it had her feeling like we were supporting people who chose to birth children and not people who chose to adopt. And so we had to do a really hard look at that, and we changed the program and we included adoption and we matched the benefit. And I wanted to share that story because as you're thinking about your programs and what you're building out, you want to make sure you are not unconsciously excluding people, which can happen. It was not intentional. And where I'm most thankful is that as an employee, she had the courage to tell us, and that we had the open door to hear her feedback, and we made change on it.
That's really incredible. I actually have a friend who shared a similar story at a different company. She's in a same-sex relationship, and those fertility benefits don't apply to her. And so she's advocating for her company to make similar changes, but it's really amazing to see that you guys are well ahead of the curve there. So incredible. I'd love to ask you about Modern Health and your decision to come on board with Modern Health. You know, you've got employees that are based in Emeryville. You've got employees based in some of the manufacturing plants and the customer service facilities. And so you've got employees all over, but I would love to hear a little bit about what motivated you to, you know, obviously you're sort of already part of the culture, but what about mental health in particular led you to Modern Health?
Yeah, it's interesting. Timing was a little bit crazy and wild on that because we were already looking at our mental health benefits and expanding that and what that looks like. We were doing that before COVID, but when COVID hit in March, that put us on a rampant speed where we were like, we need to get something more comprehensive in place. But prior to March, we were looking at it because what we were realizing is that we do have very different demographics at Clif Bar. So about 500 of our employees are based in Emeryville. The additional, we have about 600 that are based in Twin Falls, Idaho, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And then we also have international employees. So we are not solely based in California. We have a manufacturing plant. They are 24 hours operation. And also they're in more rural locations, especially Twin Falls, Idaho. We were looking at our claims and we were seeing high incidences of suicide attempts, both by employees and dependents, in our Twin Falls rural location. And we were also seeing high prescription drugs around mental health in our claims. So one benefit to being self-funded is we're able to get that kind of data and we're able to see that. So we knew early on we really needed to have a solution, but it's not one size fits all. I have an HR partner that I work with in Twin Falls, and what she talked about is that in Twin Falls, they were hit very hard by the opioid epidemic. They've also been hit very hard by COVID. In their community, alcohol-related illness is very high. But what was also talked about is that they don't have the resources in their community to support that. So if someone was suicidal, not necessarily a suicidal attempt, but they were suicidal, they were being tasked to go to the emergency room. There was no operation that was helping people in the moment, and that wasn't just steering them right to the emergency room, which of course was impacting our claims. And so when we were looking at Modern Health, we decided that what we did for Twin Falls was going to look very different than what we did for Emeryville, because those are two very different demographics and needed something different. Modern Health, when we were talking to you guys, what we loved is that you built your network for where we were located. And that was really important because with Twin Falls, it's a very rural location. We were going to need to build from the ground up. But also, we love that you had an app that to schedule time with a coach or a therapist was 24 to 48 hours. Oftentimes, it's about 24. I can vouch for that. And we needed that type of immediate assistance that we weren't getting with a traditional EAP. A traditional EAP was taking about 3 weeks to a month. So as we were thinking about Modern Health and we were doing our demos and we were talking to our leadership team, COVID hit. And we realized, you know what, we don't just need this for Twin Falls, we need this for our entire organization. So we actually pivoted from just offering it in Twin Falls to offering it to our entire organization, because we realized that now we are completely virtual. No one is able to go and visit their doctor. So this is a time where we can really get people to use an app to recognize that you may not necessarily be a therapist, but you could need a coach. And this was time for people were the most invested in sustaining their own personal mental health, because it has been a very trying year in 2020. So that was what our decision was, to expand our benefit around mental health and partner with Modern Health.
It has been a very challenging year indeed. My next question was sort of related to, you know, how your teams have been managing through this new normal of, you know, for some folks, it's balancing remote work. For other folks, it is essential work and being at a plant 24 hours a day, or you know, shift work. And for others, it's customer service support work. You know, what kinds of needs and requests have you seen since rolling out Modern Health, or since COVID? And you know, I know there was a story that you shared with me yesterday about some really difficult news that you had to deal with. And, you know, I'd love if, I'll give a bit of a trigger warning to anyone listening, but, you know, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that story if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I'll start with your kind of initial question of what we've seen, the challenges and what people have needed. It really has looked different for our bakeries who are still actively at work, who are considered our essential employees. And so they do go into the warehouse, they are working their normal shifts, versus our Emeryville location where 95% of our employees are completely virtual. They're all working from home, and they have now, you know, they're working from home with their spouses or partners, they're working from home with their kids, and they're also having distance learning. We have, the average age in our population is about 32 to about 42. So a lot of our employees are in those parenting years where they have either newborns or children still in primary elementary school. So distance learning was a huge adjustment for them. And the one thing they said they needed was time. That was the best thing we could give them time. So we rolled out a caregiver leave policy that allows our employees to take in full day increments up to 12 weeks. So as you're figuring out what your household needs are, you could, you know, partner with someone and say, okay, I'm going to take off Monday, Wednesdays. You take off Tuesdays, Thursdays, and we find a way to partner like that. But what we really need to do is make sure that our employees felt supported in doing that. Our leadership team, their managers, all supported. They are going to be offline and they are inaccessible. It is considered a leave. It's not PTO where you can, hey, can I just jump in here? It's considered a leave where, hey, we want you just doing what you need to do to take care of your family. Whatever it is that supports that, we're here to support you in that. For our bakeries, it's been a little different. What our bakeries need is to feel safe. They need to feel safe, and they also need support if they are exposed to COVID. One thing that we began to realize with our locations is that our Indianapolis location is actually our most diverse in our population. We have Hispanic, Burmese, Black, White. It is our genuinely most diverse location that we have. What we found is that we have a lot of employees who live together. They live with their family, they live with their brother, their sister, their spouses. So when you think about COVID, and if everyone in the house is having to work, everyone in the house is an essential employee, and you're all coming together, you have high exposure rates. We noticed that we were seeing really high exposure rates in our offices, so we needed to support that. At Clif Bar, we rolled out FFCRA, which is a leave that was an emergency the government rolled out. And so if you are exposed, we provide you with 2 weeks of paid time off, just to make sure that you're safe, to keep our population safe. And that's what they needed at the time. They needed to be supported in that if they are exposed or if they are taking care of a family member who happened to come down with COVID, they have the time and their job is protected and their paycheck is protected.
That's really amazing.
Asked me about is the mental health side of what our employees have been going through. So the story is, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, we had an employee and their spouse take their own lives, and it was a suicide, where it hit our population really hard. That was not something, it was a very beloved person. It was a young person. And we really needed to figure out how to support our employees through just a tough time. It's been hard. And I will say that Modern Health was phenomenal in just the support of our HR team. So when something like that happens, you are needing to communicate to employees very quickly. You need to deploy a response very quickly. And it's COVID. So traditionally, outside of COVID, you would bring in some type of therapy support and bring it in to the office and making sure that people know they have some place to go. Well, with COVID, we were really nervous that we weren't going to be able to get someone on site because of the risk. But with Modern Health, we reached out to them on Friday morning. We had a call within an hour with our HR team. Modern Health took care of all of the coordination. The only thing we needed to do was tell them a date and a time and what we needed. And that was immensely helpful to our HR leader in our office where this happened, because they're already trying to comfort employees. Plus they themselves are dealing with that type of tragedy. And so to be able to have a vendor that and a partner that just jumped in, and our employees, it was very well received. They actually ended up coming back again because our employees really loved who Modern Health partnered with to bring on site. And so we asked for them to come back again in the second week.
And how, I guess, I can only follow up the question with, how are things going and how are you doing and how's the team?
Things are going. We definitely, it's felt in our locations. It's a stressful time. At Clif Bar, we're also going through an organizational change. We got a new CEO in January who is phenomenal. Sally is such a great addition to our team, and we are all so excited that she's there, but that's a change. And that's a change in addition to all the life changes that are happening for all of our employees. We are, as an organization, very aware that everyone's life right now is just in this suspended state, really just trying to figure out what the future looks like. And so what we want to do is make sure that our employees know that's okay. That's an okay place to be. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to just be trying to go every single day, to go to work every single day. And if you're making it, that's an okay place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it can be frustrating when you sort of see, whatever, I guess, other folks who are using this year to learn Mandarin or, pick up new skills or learn magic tricks or something. And you're like, all right, isn't it just okay just to get by today? I just got by today. I made it through.
Okay, there are people who are thriving right now, who are, even they have taken COVID and they have, made this situation work for them. They are thriving their careers or their personal lives. And we have other people who are really just struggling to get by on the day-to-day. And then you have people in the middle. And I think what's important as a leader is recognizing everyone on that spectrum. And as a leader for myself and for our organization, one of the things that we just keep remembering are gratitude, but also grace. Grace is very important when you have team members who, are just not all there, or they are giving as much as they can. It's okay to not ask for more. And it's okay to just say, hey, maybe you should take a day off. We have an extensive leave policy at Clif Bar. And so we support just taking some time if you need to. We support using your PTO. It is not, we expect you to be online 24/7. We have a lot of benefits, but what we find is the challenging part of being in benefits is getting people to use them. You have to model that. It's hard to get people to actually use the benefits that we create for them.
It's so true. Yeah, you expend so much energy trying to take care of your employees. I would love to ask you personally, you've made this point already, but sort of this idea of putting on your own oxygen mask first before you put oxygen masks on for those around you. As a people leader, as someone who has, we've all gone through very difficult years this year, but I think chief people officers in particular and folks in the HR space and benefits space have gone through quite an enormous challenge this year. You're sort of naturally wired to, feel the emotions and feel the pain that folks are feeling. How are you managing your own mental and physical wellness this year?
That's a great question. It has changed over time. I am actually a firm believer in self-care, and self-care looks very different for a lot of different people. When COVID first hit, I would say March till about June were probably the busiest months I've had in this job. It was ever changing. We didn't know what was going to happen from federal support. We needed to figure out how to quickly become virtual and also support everyone in these changes. And it was stressful. And my director, who I have a great relationship with, I remember I told her, I feel myself being not productive in meetings. I feel myself being cranky. I'm not coming in with a positive attitude like I normally would. So I took some time off. I will just tell her, hey, I'm going to take Thursday. It'll be a random day. It could be a Wednesday. I'm going to take the day and I'm going to reset and I'm going to wake up. I'm not going to check my emails. And that's supported. And that's what I really encourage people to do. What I see a lot of people do a lot of times with their PTO is they hold on to it because they so badly want to go on their trip, their vacation, get on the plane. They feel like using a PTO day to stay at home and do nothing is a waste of a day. And I challenge that so often, both in my personal life and my work life. There's so much to be said to just taking a day to do what you want to do, to go to the grocery store on your time, to go on a hike. Those are the things that recharge you. When my team, I saw that probably about midway through the year, I saw my team was the wellness team. I should also point that out. I manage the wellness team and we have on-site wellness instructors, personal trainers, nutritionists that are a part of our staff. So they're not contractors, they are actual full-time employees. And with the wellness team, their job is to help support our people. So their job is to lead a yoga class, lead a mental benefit class, lead a nutrition class. And so they were really supporting our people through the hardest, especially the first 6 months of this huge shift. Well, what that did is they were exhausted. They didn't have anything that was filling them up. And so I saw this in my team and I told them, take the day. We're going to call it a team bonding day. And I told everyone to go and do something that brings them joy, whether it's riding your bike. One of my team members, she owns a horse, taking your horse out. If it's going on a walk, cooking something, whatever it is, I want you to take the day and I want you to do nothing. And I let them choose the day. I didn't say everyone has to take this Wednesday. I said, take a day in the week, pick one, each of you, I have 4, and choose a day that works for you and your schedule and take it. And so that's what I would say. I could give a long list about making sure you're checking in. doing your meditation, all of that is important. But I think the number one thing, the number one piece of advice I would say is really use the time that you have. Don't hold on to it to go on a vacation. Take a day, take 2 days, take a week and stay home and just take that time for you.
I love that. And I love that you framed it around joy too. I think, this year has been so deplete of joy that I think sometimes we've almost forgot the joy feature of our brain. And everyone deserves to have a little joy. It feels weirdly luxurious, but it's a good reset. So that's great advice. Great advice. Last question before we open it up to the audience for Q&A. And I know you've already given lots of advice and insights and inspiration for any other chief people officers or heads of benefits out there listening. But if you were, say, at a company outside of Clif Bar and didn't have kind of that legacy of benefits that were just naturally part of your company's history, what advice would you give for other people leaders who are going through 2020, looking at moving into 2021 and this COVID crisis kind of not really going away anytime soon? And what advice would you give them for taking care of their employees?
Yeah, I would say one of the critical things, especially with your leadership team, is really building a mission. The great thing about Clif Bar is our mission is built, it was built for us, it was Gary's vision. And so if you don't have a mission for your people operations team that your leadership team is invested in and also has buy-in on, that is what helps us with making decisions. When we're trying to invest in a program, because that's how we look at it. I mean, Modern Health is not the cheapest option out there, but it was the best option out there for what we were trying to accomplish. When we were looking at that cost and saying, okay, we are in a hard year as a business, like many businesses, we were all hit financially. We still need to get back to what is our mission from the benefits side, from the people operations side. What are we rooted in? And that's what helps us guide our decisions. That's honestly, when we are looking at different programs to add, we are always going back to, are we supporting the mission? What are our company goals? One thing that people don't talk enough about is that diversity and inclusion is a huge organizational change for a lot of companies, especially whether they're in the infancy stages of their diversity and inclusion initiatives or whether they've been doing it for a really long time. We are challenging employees to really think about their own personal biases, their own personal relationship with race, diversity, and inclusion, and we're challenging the thoughts that people have been raised with. We don't often give people the mental health support to as we leave those trainings. So you put everyone in a training, a bias training, unconscious bias training. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot that you've been hit with. Now what? And that was part of when we were thinking about Modern Health, when we were thinking about what was next for our benefits program. It wasn't just supporting COVID, it was supporting what the initiatives were going to be for the organization in the next 5 to 10 years. Diversity and inclusion is huge at Clif Bar right now. That is one of our biggest initiatives. In addition to, we are going through an organizational change with our new CEO. So that is hard for people. That's change, that's structural change, that's leadership change. And so we wanted to make sure we also had support from a mental health perspective on a personal level for our employees. And what we liked about Modern Health is that when we were talking to them, you have diversity and inclusion baked into your platform. So if a people manager wanted to, go through a training and then they're like, okay, I need to really unpack that. I need to talk to someone that isn't, at Clif Bar. They could go to Modern Health, and our people managers can send their employees to Modern Health when it's a difficult conversation that they may not be equipped to have. So when we're thinking, the overall message to your question is really think about what your mission is, and also think about what your company is trying to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years and build from there.
Just incredible advice all around. Thank you so much, Nicole. I would love to invite our attendees to drop any questions into the chat, and we can open it up to live Q&A from here. And welcome back.
Hello, yeah, we've already have some great questions. And again, reminder for those that want to submit some for our panelists today, you can utilize the chat feature or the question and answer feature. The first question we have is, what advice do you have for having conversations or getting buy-in from your C-suite for more inclusive benefits? What proof points do you find make the most impact?
So for us, I would say starting with getting buy-in from your head of people. So whoever the SVP is of people, you want to make sure you have their buy-in and their support, because that's going to be your lead-in into your C-suite. And then from there, what I learned with the C-suite is that the data also has to be there. So with us, we brought to the table our claims data. It wasn't just our employees, in which our employees' voice does matter, but it was also the data behind it. So why should we be investing in this particular benefit at this particular time? So making sure you have the right consulting company is critical. Our consultant supports us so much with making sure we are bringing the appropriate data to our leadership team and to our board.
Awesome. We've got another question about the COVID exposure leave that you mentioned. Is the leave a one-time use, or is there a limit to this leave?
There is a limit. It's a very complex leave, but essentially it could be 2 weeks to 12 weeks. It dovetails FMLA, so it's not in addition to, it's the 12 weeks that you would normally be allotted for FMLA. It's a very complex leave that we are going to be tweaking just a little bit when we go into the year of 2021. But it is supposed to mirror FMLA leave. It's just basically expanding it so that FMLA also covers COVID.
Awesome. And I love this question. How do you think about what type of benefits to offer and what will resonate with your employees? What's the best way you found to get feedback on what's needed, especially during this 2020 period where so many things have changed?
Yeah, so we have a thing called Even Better If at Clif Bar, and it is an anonymous box where you can choose to either leave your name or not, but our employees are very vocal. They will submit to Even Better If and let us know, okay, things are great, but they would be even better if we had X. The other thing we do is our business partners are very close to just our organization. And so we lean heavily on our business partners to let us know what should we be doing next. We have not run, I know the traditional way is to do a benefits survey. We have not run a benefits survey in a couple of years, and I do think that we will be doing that eventually. But for right now in our particular organization, our employees are a bit surveyed out. We've been taking pulse surveys for quite a few things just to get a heat check on, how people are doing. And so right now, on the benefits side, we're trying to avoid additional surveys for people. I think the best way to really get an understanding of what your people need is to just ask. I do think that the surveys help for a lot of organizations. For us in particular right now, we know that there were some foundational things we wanted to change. And so we have not run one, but I do think they're really beneficial.
Awesome. The next question we have is, with your different populations, how do you think of varying benefits? How often do you offer site-specific benefits based on the needs of those specific sites? That
is a great question. And we do a lot, actually. So we do look at those sites as individual companies, called company 1, company 2, company 3. And that's because they have different needs, and we have local HR support in each of those. So at Clif Bar, I manage the broader benefits program and also help source vendors, making sure we're partnering with the right people, doing that data analysis. But our people in our bakery locations, our HR leaders there, they have a very strong voice in what we should be doing and what should be next. When we were looking at Modern Health, I wanted to make sure that in Twin Falls, where Modern Health was most needed, we had the buy-in from that HR leader there, and that they were able to ask the questions that were specific to their population. Because while I love to think that I have a good pulse on, the broader Clif Bar population, there's nothing like being on the ground. So if you do have different demographics, I would say it is very important to make sure you are talking to the people who are there in that community, living there day to day, to make sure that you are actually hitting on their needs and you're not taking what you think they need and imposing it on them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have a question from Maria. You offer an impressive benefits package. I agree, Maria. As far as your leave programs, do you manage your leave programs in-house or do you outsource them?
I didn't get to talk about leaves, but leaves is one of my favorite things. It is also time consuming. So we have a hybrid. We outsource leaves to our vendor who manages them. But because Clif Bar's leave policy is so extensive, we offer, outside of just our parental leave, our medical leave, we pay a lot. And so we do a lot of top offs. We also manage it in-house as well. So it depends on the leave. But overall, we use a third-party administrator, and we are also going to be working on seeing how we can expand that relationship.
That's great. And then I think we've got one last question here about engagement. What are some of the top engagement strategies that you have to get people to use and utilize their benefits?
Oh man, we're working on that. And it really, luckily at Clif Bar, our employees, they really do use their benefits. I will say that that's who we're very strong in, that people understand that you work at Clif Bar, you are going to have lots of benefits. When you go to our glass door, the number one thing people talk about at Clif Bar is our benefits. But one of the benefits I didn't talk about is our sabbatical program. So after 7 years of being at Clif Bar, you were eligible to take a sabbatical. It is 6 weeks with the ability to extend it for 2 more weeks using your PTO. So you could potentially get 8 weeks of paid leave off. That is a benefit everybody uses. One of the things I do to make sure people are always aware of the different benefits we offer is we do a company all hands meeting every single week. And I try to be very visible in those meetings, because when people see you and you're reminding them, some of our employees will tell you the one thing I talk about all the time is take your PTO, because that is a benefit. And when we were launching Modern Health, I was again at our company meetings reminding people that we have them. So between emails, company meetings, and just making sure that we're, as a team, we're very visible, that's actually what helps our engagement a lot.
Awesome. We've got another question, somewhat of a follow-up to this. One, what is the headcount of employees at Clif Bar, and what different communication channels are being used to communicate the benefits to the business? And also curious how this might change between some of the more corporate workers, but also some of the workers that are in the bakeries.
That is a fantastic question. Thank you to whoever asked that. We are about 1,200 employees, a little fluctuating. We have employees in Twin Falls, in Indianapolis, Embryville, the UK, and then Europe. So we have employees in a lot of different areas. Because we have employees who are not on their computers in our manufacturing locations, they're not on computers, we do a lot of in-person boots on the ground. There is an HR person there communicating. So flyers, boards, our offices are beautiful. They are really lots of light, lots of natural light. And so we have posters and flyers all over the office in our bakery locations, because we cannot rely on email communications to get the word out to people. We also have multiple languages. We have a large Burmese and Hispanic population in Indianapolis. And so we also, we convert our communications into Burmese and into Spanish. During open enrollment, you can imagine that can get very challenging, but it's important. It's important that people really understand in their language what we're offering, because these are benefits that really impact people's families. So we want to make sure that we are not excluding them just because they are not English speaking first. So we try to be very inclusive with our communications and the languages that we're using to support that population. And then for our Emeryville location, that is mostly email. They love email, apps, and again, talking on the company meetings. That is the primary way that we communicate. But the overall message is we do have different communication channels for each of our populations.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nicole. I think that's the last question we have, unless anyone wants to shoot in a last one, but so appreciate the time today and all the amazing insight you're able to provide on this.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was the highlight of my week. I appreciate talking about all things benefits, and to everyone who joined in, thank you for coming and listening to me.
Thank you so much, Nicole. We're getting additional comments just saying this is extremely informational, helpful, validating, really related to a lot of the content you shared. So thank you so much, Nicole, for being an amazing client and an amazing human and taking care of so many wonderful humans at Clif Bar. And we just appreciate you so much. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone on the call. And we will see you next time.
All right, Batty.
Thanks, everyone.